Hey there, it's Monday and time for Monday Mastery. I'm author and dating coach Rick Sodabeer, and I'm here to help you navigate the sometimes murky and oftentimes enjoyable waters of dating and relationships. And today is no different. Today is another Monday Mastery, and it's been a nice weekend here. We had some warm weather finally, and it's back into the mid 70s. And I know for a lot of you in the Midwest and in the South, you're just cooking, and I feel sorry for you. At times, I wish I was down there, but right now, I'm kind of enjoying the last of the summer weather up here in northern Michigan, and it's actually kind of eerie or spooky because the leaves are already turning, and they seem to be coming on a little bit faster this year than they have in the past few years. I know, but I was looking through some of my pictures from a couple of years ago, actually about 6 years ago, and some pictures and memories popped up of leaves already turning, but they weren't quite as far along as they are right now. But it's getting to be that time of the year. It's almost the end of August. School is starting again. And in a lot of areas, some places it's already been in session for at least a week, and others are starting to go back to school this week and next week. And ah, I so where did summer go? Anyway, it's another random thoughts Monday, and I had some thoughts that I didn't finish up last week. We talked about a couple of things. One of them was how much lying do you allow in a relationship? And the general consensus was, not much. If you're lying about your birthday or lying about surprise parties or presents, that type of thing, it's okay. But if it's anything else, anything more serious, then it's probably not a good idea. Not a, in general, it's just not a healthy idea for a strong relationship. Now, this week I wanted to dive into one of the things that's been I at least I've noticed in some of the social media, the various attitudes about dating and what are men's responsibilities, what are women's responsibilities. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that more and more men are are standing up for themselves. For the longest time, in fact, traditionally, it's always been men that have had to prove themselves to be worthy of the woman. And and there's some understand there's I understand that to a large degree, because women are generally looking forward to, or uh, looking for security in a relationship. They want to know that they've got a man that's actually going to take care of them. And excuse me here. And the the with the way society has changed in the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, it's become more of an equal playing field, where women are more likely to be self-sufficient and taking care of themselves, as opposed to needing or wanting a man to be supportive or supporting and taking care of them, making sure that they have a comfortable household. Because the reality is that both men and women are working outside the home, and that's been the case for quite a few years. I know even my parents, it wasn't as common back when I was in my youth, but it's gotten to the point where almost every parent, uh, every family, the husband and wife both work outside the home. And so it's becoming less of a demand, I guess, that the man should or has to prove himself, and more that responsibility is now also falling on the woman. What makes her a good catcher? What are her good qualities that if he's going to pay for everything, if he's going to be the main provider, what is she going to provide to the relationship? It's a shift in cultural norms and in our society. And what is it that where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the boundaries for who does what? And when is it the man's responsibility to step up to the plate and prove that he's worthy? And then when is it the woman's responsibility to step up to the plate and prove that she's worthy of him? There's been a couple of great videos and a couple of interesting reels or short stories that I've seen on social media, and it's the gentleman is talking about, well, if why can't she make me a sandwich? If I ask her to make me a sandwich, she should make me a sandwich. And the host, the female host of the program, God said, "Hey, wait, Buster. It's not. It's where do you get off saying that?" And he started pointing out, well, you expect me to pay for the meal. When I take you out, you expect me to pay for the meal. He said, you expect me to protect you when I take you out. If somebody starts harassing you, you expect me to step up and protect you. And he listed several other things. And then he says, so if I ask you to make me a sandwich, why can't you make me a sandwich? And the audience there was just a gasp, and it was, wow, reality, what a concept. They were just slapped upside the head. So there is a point in time that I believe that the ladies do have to prove their worth, I guess, in better terms, or in simpler terms. But it should be, in my opinion, and since we've got no comments yet, it's my opinion that we should be on an equal playing field. We should both need to prove ourselves to the other, and it's something that I've pretty much always been a firm advocate of both parties having to participate in making the relationship work, not just one or the other, not just the man trying to prove that he's worthy and keep doing and doing and doing and doing and getting nothing in return. And vice versa. She can't keep giving and giving and giving, and him not being reciprocal. It needs to be a two-way effort. It needs to be a situation where you're both working to make this thing work, and if you're not, it's just a one-sided relationship. And if you're in a one-sided relationship, it's a no-win situation, except for the one that's least invested, the one, I guess, to state it in a different way, that the one that's least in love is the one that is the one that has all the control, all the power, because the other party, the one that's putting in all the effort, is the one that will do anything to make the relationship work. And if you find yourself in a relationship like that, that becomes a toxic relationship. It does need to be reciprocal. And if it's not reciprocal, you need to recognize that, and it doesn't make any difference how good you feel the relationship is for you. That it's time to it's time to reevaluate and probably step away from that type of relationship, because it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any more satisfying. And it's one of those things that that if you don't take control, if you continue to give and give and give and get nothing in return, you're going to lead a very unfulfilled life. And that's part of the reason that our divorce rate is so high, is that there are so many relationships, so many marriages that are based on one-sided relationships that focus, and from mostly what I see, it is the woman focusing on taking care of the man. And while he does provide for things around the house, he does not, financially, he may not do a lot around the house. He may take care of the cars, and he may take care of the lawn, or do some of those things. But for the most part, if she's putting in all the effort, making all the plans, doing all the cooking, all the cleaning, in addition to working outside the home, that's not quite a fair exchange. It needs to be both parties contributing to the relationship, and especially from an emotional standpoint. If you're not investing in your relationship emotionally, then it gets to be pretty lonely. And if you're the only one putting in a romantic effort or an emotional effort, that gets to be tough, and that gets to be old after a while. So anyway, it looks like we've got people jumping in and out here, and I don't know if we've got some streaming problems or connectivity problems or whatever it is, but I think we'll go for a little bit longer. But if it doesn't stabilize here, or it doesn't look like it's going to come together for the podcast, we'll just end it and pick it up next week. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about today, or jump into today, is trying to work on a relationship, or trying to create a relationship out of little or nothing. And I caught myself doing that recently, and it's just one of those things that there's a particular person in my life that just means the world to me. And yet it's a relationship that in some respects we get along so well, and on other levels it's just a no-go. And I was talking to her last night, and I said, this just doesn't even make sense to me, because it's not even logical that I want to be with you. But it's one of those things that I find myself in, and I caught myself last night after our conversation and thinking about it again this morning, that I'm trying to change her. I'm trying to fix her. And I can't do that. And I tell you all not to do that, and here I catch myself doing the same darn thing. But it is frustrating, because we all have those people in our lives that we really want to connect with on a very deep level. But there's something in some way, shape, or form that just is preventing that from happening. And we have to recognize that, okay, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And we have to let it die. We have to let it go. As much as we love to be with that person, as much as we want to have that person in our lives, we have to also recognize the negatives, the things that are keeping us from creating an extraordinary relationship. And we can't change somebody. We can't go in and expect to say, hey, if you change this, then we can really form a strong relationship. It has to be strong from the beginning and get stronger as it goes. You can't build something out of nothing. Only God can do that. Only He can create something out of nothing. And in terms of human relationships, we all want that extraordinary relationship, and we all meet people. We all run into certain people that have this incredible draw on us. And it was actually the basis for the book Exaholics, because there are certain people that we just get drawn to, that we have an extraordinarily difficult time of letting go. And when we run into those situations, it is a brutal breakup. It is, and I mean emotionally brutal. It's one of those that can take literally months, if not years, to get over, because of the connections that we've developed over however long we were together. And it doesn't even have to be a long time. It can be just a very short period of time. But you develop these connections, and it's basically because of hormones, the raging hormones of infatuation. You got dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. And there's another one. I'm missing it off the top of my head. But all these things come into play, and we have to recognize that these are the same hormones that come into play with alcoholics or drug users. They get the same high off of the same hormones affect them as people in love. And and if it's the wrong relationship, you can start developing these connections to someone, and you find out it may be the wrong person, or they do something to screw up the relationship. But you recognize that, no, this can't go on, or they break up with you and it comes out of the blue. Whatever it is, however the relationship ends, you find yourself just torn apart because this person is no longer in your life. And it's partly because of all these hormones that are floating around, and triggering spots in your brain. And it, like I said, it's like an addict getting their next fix, or an alcoholic getting their next drink. And so we suffer greatly, emotionally, trying to let go of these relationships. And if any of you are struggling like that, there's a great book which I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago called Exaholics. And it talks about how difficult it is to exit some relationships. I mean, to the point where it can cause you to do crazy things, like drive by their house, it just, spy on them, just try to run into them in old places that you used to hang out. Lots of crazy things, when in fact you need to be doing just the opposite. You need to be staying as far away as possible, and doing different things, going different places, and not participating in some of the things you used to do. No matter how much you enjoy it, you may even need to change circles of friends, because if there were people that you hung around with jointly, you may have to leave those people behind, just so that they don't bring up a constant reminder of what the two of you were doing together, the life that you had together. And so it can be very difficult, but it's you have to recognize that you can't change someone. You can't try to negotiate a relationship with somebody. It has to fit. It has to work. They have to be the right one. And it doesn't mean that you have to, in normal situations, if you're an exaholic, it's somebody that you need to cut off completely. But for normal situations, if you can remain friends, great. the longer you were together, the harder it is to remain just friends, because there's always going to be that romantic connection, and it's hard to just remain friends, and be able to move forward and to be able to move into a new relationship without the possibility of feeling guilty that you're leaving them behind, or you're leaving that relationship, or they're going to have their feelings hurt. And that, as a side note, their feelings are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is for your feelings and taking care of yourself and moving your life forward. It's not about worrying about what they're going to think or how they're going to feel if you move on or when you move on. And that's the key. You have to plan on moving on. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but maybe it'll be Thursday. So, but you have to have that thought that you are going to move on. You are going to find that one. And when you find that one, it's going to be extraordinary, because they're going to bring so much more to the table than you ever imagined. And that's I continually repeat that, because it's so important. And the people that I talk to, the people that I coach, and especially on the first couple of appointments or first couple of coaching sessions, it's incredible that how few people actually know what they truly want, need, and desire in a relationship. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get this information out of them. And it's because we never think about it. We're always trained that we need to accept what comes along. We're taught that we're selfish or we're too picky. How many of you have heard that, yeah, that you're too picky, that you'll never find what you want, if you have a detailed list. And that's exactly what you need is a detailed list, your must-haves and your deal breakers. And those things need to be written down, and they need to be written down in a positive format, like must have this or must have that, must be this, must be that, whatever it is. And it doesn't make any difference. There are no right or wrong answers. They are your answers. They are what's important to you. And unless it's important to you, unless it's what you truly want, then it means no difference. It makes no difference. I mean, it's all up to you. And it doesn't make any difference how long or how short your list is. If your list is 5, one of my dearest friends has 5 things on her list, and that's it. And mine, on the other hand, has 35 or 36. And does that mean that I'll never find my soulmate? Absolutely not. I've already met several women that have everything I want on my list. There were some other characteristics. Either we didn't connect intellectually, or maybe spiritually, or there was something. Maybe we didn't carry the same love languages, or express the same love languages. And I firmly believe that's a critical part of participating in or having a strong or an extraordinary relationship. It's speaking similar love languages, because my experience, and I know the author talks about being able to learning your partner's love languages, and that's okay if you're married and you need to work on deepening your communication. But when you're in the singles world, especially in midlife singles, you have experiences, you have things that you want, and you want to experience things that you want to share with your partner. And that can't always be done effectively if you're speaking different love languages. And so I'm a firm believer that if you find that person that has all your must-haves and none of your deal breakers, you've developed an intellectual, spiritual, emotional, and a physical connection, and then you speak similar love languages, and then bring in chemistry, you have the ingredients for an amazing relationship. And most people don't recognize how wonderful that relationship is until they actually experience it. And over the years, I've had people write to me or call me or text me or message me in one way, shape, or form and say, Rick, I found my soulmate, and it was just better than I ever could have imagined. And that's what we have to hang in there for. It gets hard at times. It, it can feel like, oh man, I just want to quit. Well, if you need to take a break, fine, take a break, but don't quit. If you truly want to be in an extraordinary relationship, it's you'll if you quit, you'll never find that person. So it's important to think of the long game, I guess is the best way to describe it, is that we want to look as far down the road as we can. What do we see our lives in 10 years, 15 years, 20, 25 years? For me, 25 years is probably the outside limit on my lifetime. But for a lot of you, it could be 20, 30, or even 40 years. What do you want that relationship to look like? What do you want it to look like on a day-to-day basis? And it's not going to be the Ozzie and Harriet type, leave it to Beaver type marriage or relationship. That just doesn't happen, because there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be arguments. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be life events that cause great stress in the relationship that just is going to create issues. But when you're with that right person, you're naturally going to be working together. You're going to be there to enhance each other's lives. You're not going to be there to tear each other down. That doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen, that things aren't going to get in between you. There are plenty of things that can pop up, but as long as you both recognize that this is the relationship that God has provided for you, then you can both work at it and come back. You may have to step away for an hour or 2 hours, or half a day, or whatever it is, whatever time you need to cool off and come back, and then you can come back and work things out. And when you're in that kind of relationship, yeah, people, you might get your feelings bruised a little bit, but then you come right back together and you start working together and building up your life together, and you continue and grow and experience the wonderful things, in addition to the not so wonderful things. So anyway, it's been a little quiet here today. I see, people have been bouncing in and out and no comments today. I don't know if we've had some connectivity issues, or people are just busy and bouncing in and out and checking in for a few minutes here and a few minutes there. But if there's any comments, please shoot those into the chat box. I'm more than willing to answer questions. And right now, I'm not too sure about any other topics that are just rolling around in my head. Those were a couple that Hey, Cece, thanks for joining in. Okay, I'm glad that we've got good connectivity. So it's just an odd day where people are jumping in and out. So if you guys have any questions or want me to go in a different direction, let me know. Otherwise, we'll start thinking about next week and more of the fall weather that's coming our way. I know some of you farther down south, even into Iowa, into northern or southern Iowa, are just really, really hot. Okay. Cece's got a question here. Is a lie the same as just lies of omission? If Well, and again, Cece, we talked a little bit about this last week. It, it depends on what the lies of omission are. If it's a serious material fact to your relationship, or to a potential relationship, yes, then it is the same as any other lie, other than other than the white lies that we tell, the hiding of a surprise party, or birthday presents, or Christmas presents, or those types of things. uh, those little white lies that we all tell. We plot a surprise party for somebody, and we have to tell them, oh, we're going to take you out for dinner over here, and then it's just going to be a quiet, quaint dinner. And when we get there, their friends all pop out, and it's this big overall party. But if it's and I'll use a physical health type of thing. Let's see what CC says. Deal with the person I am dating. He should tell me if he speaks with, oh yeah, a previous affair partner. He did not. I caught it, and when confronted, he just blew up, screaming that he should not have to tell me. Ugh, not the agreement. No, Cece, what he's doing there is that's a major problem. If he's not willing to fess up and admit his responsibility, or take responsibility for what he's doing, this immediately, to me, sends a signal that this is a relationship that should end, because he's not being honest with you. And if I understand the question or the comment, that that he's had an affair with this person previously, then if he's talking to them again, and you caught him, and you bring it up to him, and then he explodes on you, yeah, that's a sign that you are in a toxic relationship. The relationship is all about him. He's not going to. And 2 years ago, yeah, it doesn't make any difference how long ago it was, CC. If that's the type of man he is, if he's not emotionally mature enough to accept his responsibility and the role he's playing in destroying your relationship, then it's time to walk away. And I don't know if you're still in that relationship, or if you mean that relationship was 2 years ago. It's Regardless, that's not going to be a healthy relationship. And I don't care what kind of good qualities he has. This would be a deal breaker for me. This is something that there has to be fidelity in the relationship. And if there's not, there's no point in you being there, because you're always going to be worrying about where he is, who he's with. Let's see. No, the affair was 2 years ago. This happened last week, and I have blocked him. And that's a wise thing, Cece. It's time to walk away from that relationship. If I'm assuming you were still in a relationship with him, and it's time to walk away, because if he can't be honest with you, and when he's confronted with real live evidence, then that goes to his character. And is that the character you would like in the man that you're with? So in my humble opinion, that's a run rather than walk away from that relationship. So does that help you, Cece? So it's bad character. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so yeah, and it is bad character. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Having your must-have list and your deal breaker list. And CC, this should be something on your deal breaker list now. Somebody that is emotionally responsible and is emotionally healthy and um, can accept responsibility for what he does wrong. And we're all going to do things wrong. We're all going to make mistakes, but it's, and they're not always intentional. Sometimes we just make a mistake or we say the wrong thing. But when we find out that it hurts somebody, we need to be able to take responsibility for that. We need to step up and say, I did it. Yes, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. And then he has to change. But obviously, hey, Addie, thanks for joining in. But obviously, if he's not accepting responsibility for it, or if he's getting mad that you're checking up on him, obviously he's still sneaking around and doing things that he knows are wrong. And that's not, that shouldn't be the characteristic. That should be a deal breaker on your list. Or to put it on your must-have list, must be truthful, must be loyal. And I know I pick on a lot of people for having those characteristics because they are generally vague. And who doesn't want somebody that's loyal? Who doesn't want somebody that's trustworthy? But you might phrase it, somebody that can tell the truth. And it might be somebody that can tell the truth when they're confronted with something they've done wrong. That might be one of your must-haves. So it's deal breaker, no loyalty. That is really a bad thing for me. Absolutely. That should be and CC, that should be a bad thing for everyone. No loyalty. If you can't be loyal to your partner, then you don't belong. Excuse me. You don't belong in a relationship. Excuse me. Allergies are coming out here. We're getting fall allergies up here with all of the leaves changing. But anyway, I digress. And again, CC, make your must-have and your deal breaker list. Your must-have list should be all the things that you want and stated in a positive manner, because you find the things you focus on. I've said this 100 times that if you don't want a smoker, and you wouldn't put on your must-have list no smokers, you'd put must be smoke-free or something to that effect. Because when I say I don't want somebody that smokes, what's the first picture that comes to your mind? It's the picture of a smoker. But yet when you say must be smoke-free, you have a different picture. You have a picture of somebody that's probably healthier, more physically fit, somebody that doesn't reek of cigarette smoke, somebody that may even be more athletic. I don't know, whatever picture comes to your mind. But when you put your list together, make sure that you put those the things that are important to you, the non-negotiable characteristics or traits that you want in a relationship. Do you want somebody that's financially secure? Do you want somebody that will hold your hand? Do you want somebody that will help you cook or would enjoy cooking spending time in the kitchen with you? Do you want somebody that will take care of the cars? Do you want somebody that will go to the movies with you or watch a chick flick with you? Whatever it is, go to the opera, go to the shooting range, or whatever it is you like to do. Those are the types of things that belong on your list. And your deal breaker list should be very short. It should be, for mine, it's cats, tattoos, and porn. Those three are my deal breakers. That's it. And yours can be whatever they are. And cat people, don't get angry with me. I'm just not a cat person. I'm a dog person. And, that's just the way I am. And so, uh, but whatever your deal breakers are, they're yours, and there's no right or wrong here. It's whatever is important to you is what belongs on your lists. Whatever things that you don't want in your life should be in your deal breaker list. And like I said, that list should be fairly short. Probably not much more than 5 or 6 items at the very, very most. Because what happens is when you start focusing on the negative characteristics, that's exactly what you find. And then you're going to start to say, when that's all you're focusing on and that's all you're finding, you're going to say, well, there's no good men left, or there's no good women left. They're all, all the good ones are taken. Well, no, because there's millions of people that get married every year, and we know that statistically that about 60%, if they're first marriages, that about 60% of those will last, but they're not necessarily going to be strong, happy, healthy relationships. Only about 10 to 15% of those are. And it's, and the whole point of what I do is to help you to recognize what the common problems are, what the roadblocks or the hurdles are to extraordinary relationships. And part of that is settling for the wrong person. We find a nice pile of stuff over here, all the nice characteristics, and then we've got a pile of garbage over here that we have to deal with. But that's not the way it should be. If there's any problems at all, they should be very few and far between. The worst things that you should have to fight about are where you squeeze the tube of toothpaste from, and maybe which way you put the roll of toilet paper on. And for you ladies, I know you want the lid down, but why? I've been asking for years, why can't you guys put the lid down? It's but if that's if that's going to be a deal breaker, well, so be it. We both can one can put the lid up, one can put the lid down. Anyway, I digress. And yeah, I know it sounds silly, Cece, but you'd be surprised. That was something, and these things can be, well, they're minimal, in the grand scheme of things, they're irrelevant. But when you're in a toxic relationship, everything will grate on you. I know when I was going through my divorce, that was a huge issue for me. I squeezed from the bottom, my ex would squeeze the tube from the middle. It drove me crazy. And in the end, we ended up getting different tubes of toothpaste. You can easily remedy some of those things, but in the heat of the moment, it's just another thing it's like another fingernail grating on or sliding down the chalkboard, and it's just not fun. So as many of those things, as many of those roadblocks, as many of those hurdles, as many of those problems you can take out of the equation before you get into a relationship, before you get married. And again, I go back to the must-have and the deal breaker list, and that's why it's so important to have them written down and with you at all times. You go through, you have a great date with somebody, and you start going through the list. Did he have this? Did he have that? Did he have this? Or did he show any of these? Have any of my warning signs? Or any of my deal breakers? And a perfect example is I was having a conversation, a phone conversation, a first phone conversation. I met somebody online, and we were just going through the conversation, and she told me she had cats. right there, I knew we were done. I carried the conversation on for a little bit, but by the end of the conversation, I just had to say, this has been a nice conversation. You seem like a nice woman, but this is not the right relationship for me. You've already shared a couple of things that are my deal breakers or are warning signs for me. And, it's just, I have to go in a different direction. And you can share what your deal breakers are. In my case, it was cats, and I forget what else she had said. But these are things that you can save yourself a lot of problems in the long run by knowing these things up front and catching these things early. And she seemed like a nice woman, but again, with cats and whatever else it was, I can't remember. It was a little bit back, but it just wasn't going to work for me. And I'm not here to change her, and I don't want her to change me. And that's the way it goes. We have to accept those things. But the point here is that we want to make sure that we know those things up front so we can make those decisions quickly, so that we don't get involved. And it may not just be cats or whatever deal breakers it is. It may be something that pops up a little bit further down the road. But you as you start to develop feelings for somebody, you have to be able to recognize these red flags or these warning signs quickly so that you can end it now and move on, so that you don't get any more deeply involved. Addie asks, do you tell your potential dates you have a list? Or do you wait until you get until something gets brought up? Curious on your take. I've done it both ways, Addie. I generally don't bring that up on the first date or two. I'm usually observing. While we're talking, I'll ask questions. What was your favorite vacation? Or tell me about this, tell me about that. What's your favorite pet? Or what pets do you have? Whatever it is, Addie, it's whatever's important to you. You can ask about these things, and in doing so, just listen to the conversation. And a lot of times people will start telling you about their life or aspects of your life and say, oh, didn't know that wasn't in your profile. And you can start narrowing it down. And on the other hand, when somebody asks me what I'm looking for, I may just pull my list out. I may just start reading off my list and say, here. And Addie says, exactly, observing. I have found out that if you mention too early on, then they may manipulate themselves just to fit your list. Well, and and I think guys are probably more notorious about that than women are. But I think if you just ask the right questions, you can, more times than not, you can in even just a couple of dates, you can start figuring out what they bring to the relationship, or what must-haves they're going to what things what deal breakers they might start displaying. And Cece says, oh yes, they do get manipulative. Well, and again, that's the importance of paying attention up front and being aware early on. Because all too often we go out on a date and it's a nice date. He's a nice guy. Or she's a nice woman, and we're physically attracted, and we start to think about other things, and we're enjoying ourselves, enjoying our time, but and we lose focus on what we should be looking for. We lose focus on, oh, what about this? or, oh, I didn't, I completely missed that. And if you can start to see them get manipulative, or if that's the kind of guy that you generally attract, is somebody that's a bit more manipulative, then it's time to it's then that's all the more reason to have your must have and your deal breaker list written down and in your purse, or sorry about that. That one caught me by surprise. Huh. It's important to have those things handy, and so that you can step back quickly and take a look at what did I miss there? What's thank you, Cece. It's allergies. I've actually felt this coming on last night or this morning about 4:30, and it's catching up with me again. So anyway, pay attention. Be observant of what your date is doing, what your date is saying. And don't just be oblivious. Don't be sitting there thinking about what you're going to say next. Actually be present in the moment and listen. And don't worry about what the next words are, or what your next comment is going to be, or what your next question is going to be. If there's a minute pause, that's fine. Think through what he's saying or she's saying, and respond to that. Your conversation may go in a totally different direction than what you were intending, but that's still okay, because it opens up a wide variety of different subjects that may come up, and it may veer into something that's important, and it may veer into something that's not important. But either way, you be observant in the conversation, listen to what they're saying, and pay attention. And that's why, again, have your list written down and refer to it regularly until you basically have it memorized. You know the things that are important to you, and you recognize those things. And in the heat of the moment, you may forget those things, but then you can step back out of the infatuation and say, oh yeah, he did do this, or he didn't do that. He didn't open my car door. That's something that's important to me. He didn't offer to pick up the tab. He wanted to split it. And that can be important. So it's all about being observant and not sticking around any longer than necessary. And I don't want it to sound like you're going to get into a relationship or start dating somebody and then immediately turn around and leave. No, if it's a great relationship, explore further. But I think within 30 days of talking to somebody and dating somebody, you can find whether they're worth pursuing further or not. And if they're worth pursuing further, then great, go for it. But if they're not, don't waste your time. The worst thing you can do is invest good time after bad to just see if you're missing something. If you're seeing something, if you're seeing red flags or warning signs early on, then it's time to leave. It's don't try to make something out of repair something that's or try to make a relationship out of a friendship that's already broken, or not right. So anyway, with that, I think I'll stop rambling, and I hope you guys have a great week. If you have any questions, just shoot them to me, and either by email or private message, and I'll take care of it and I'll answer them for you. And have an awesome week. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for Monday Mastery right here at the same time. Thanks, Addie.